In this video, I'd like to look at some of the short-run outcomes for a firm, given different prices and the average total cost and average variable cost curves. And we're going to be able to see instances where a firm earns positive profits, maybe break even, where they don't make any profits or losses at all, and also what we're going to call the shutdown point, where a firm really should say, okay, I'm done. I'm gonna get out of business. Okay, and to do this, simple setup. We have the quantity of the goods measured along the vertical axis. We got the price of the good measured, on the horizontal axis, price on the vertical axis. We have the marginal cost curve for this individual firm. We've got the average total cost. That's the total cost divided by quantity. We've got the average variable cost, which is the total variable cost divided by quantity. And a feature of this, it's important to always do this, is that the marginal cost curve will touch the minimum of the average total cost mathematically. The marginal cost will also go through the minimum of the average variable cost. This really has to do, there's no options about that. That has to do with the mathematics of it, but let me not worry about that right now. Okay, so let's imagine first we've got a price of P1, a relatively high price. Now, if this is a competitive firm, it will choose to output based on going to the marginal cost curve and going down. Now, one of the things that you notice about this is at that price, the price exceeds the average total cost. Now, let me do a little bit of math with this. What we have is that the price exceeds the average total cost. That is another way of saying that total cost divided by Q, okay, that's average total cost, the price is greater than that. Well, that's another way of saying the price times quantity is greater than the total cost. At that price, firms are making economic profits. Okay, so that high price allows you to make profits. Okay, that's one outcome. Now, in a longer term context, those profits may induce other firms to come in and compete, driving down the price, but let's not worry about that. We have another price P2, and this price is one that I've chosen carefully so that where that price equals the marginal cost, that's where price equal to average total cost. Similar to what we just did, that's a break-even point. That's where the price, okay, let me write this down. Actually, let me do this. At P1, we had positive profits. At P2, break even. Whenever the price equal to average total cost, you're breaking even. Again, that's because at that price P2, price times quantity is equal to total cost. Okay. Well, okay, so let's say that price is now P3 instead. Okay, so we go over here. There's the quantity. Average total cost is greater than the price. They're losing money. Okay, they're bleeding. They are bringing in less revenue than their total costs. So at price P3, losing money, negative profits. Now the question is, if you lose money, do you get out of business? Well, maybe not in the short run. Sometimes firms lose money. If it's over a short period of time, you can reach into your reserves, you can kind of keep going. Yeah, the price, maybe the price will go back up. Maybe it's a recession. Maybe a new competitor's shown up and you haven't figured out how to price and you haven't figured out how to reduce your costs, whatever. So if you're losing money, that doesn't mean get out immediately. What about at P4? Let's say we had things get really bad. I go over to my marginal cost curve and I'm definitely losing money, but I'm also below my average variable cost. Now let's see what that means. Okay, so at P4 you produce Q4, that's your price. Your average variable cost, given by that curve, is there. What do you do now? Well, you've got price being less than your average variable cost. That average variable cost is your variable cost divided by quantity. That's the same thing as saying that your revenue is less than what you're paying in variable costs. This is what we call the shutdown point, where you really seriously ought to get out of business. Now, another way of looking at this is saying that you are not getting enough revenue to even pay, to contribute to your fixed costs. Okay? You're not even covering your variable costs. So you've got to take some of that revenue that you might be using to cover your fixed costs and cover the variable cost. So another way to think about this is that if we've got total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost, if the revenue is less than the variable cost, you're not covering your fixed costs. And that's the condition where firms seriously ought to consider shutting down, getting out of business, exiting the market altogether. So important to be able to identify these concepts, identify the which combinations get you these various results. In large part because it gives you a sense of whether firms are happy to stay in, seriously thinking about leaving, or really should get out of a line of work.